Okay, so I promise if I can finish in 15 minutes, I will do so, and then Q&A if you have any questions about demo day. Purpose of this talk is so you know exactly what you need. Well, maybe not exactly what you need, but most of what you need to know for having a great experience on Friday. We already talked about this on Sunday, but I'm sure that that's so long ago that you probably don't remember a thing about Sunday. So 10-minute business plan. The format for a demo day is 10 minutes presentation and then 5 minutes Q&A. Now, I shouldn't have to say this, but if you can finish earlier and finish in 7 minutes and you have more time for Q&A, that's goodness, okay? So good. Shorter is better because you're going to get the most value out of the Q&A because you're going to get a lot more interaction with the judges and you're going to be able to explain a lot more things in the Q&A. So practice your pitch so you make sure you know you're going to finish inside 10 minutes. And the other thing is we're going to time you. And there's going to be people timing, and then we'll give 5-minute warning, 1-minute warning. And when time's up, you've seen the elevator pitch, right? We're very rude. We're going to just cut you off. That's it, right? 10 minutes, you're going to get cut off mid-sentence, and no exceptions. So practice so that when you're running out of time, you know how to finish quickly in 2 or 3 words, right? The content to cover in 10 minutes, this is a guideline. This is the stuff you need to have in your pitch. We're not suggesting that you go through every single one of these things in this order, 1 per slide. That's not what we're trying to have you do, but you do need to have this content in there. And tell a story, make a connection. Always generally good to start with an emotional connection. And we were role-playing yesterday with Arena, and she did a fantastic job, really kind of jumping right into something that grabs your attention. And then you need to say who you are, what is the problem you're solving, solution and benefits, and the economic opportunity. You need to be able to speak to that, and you need to talk to how your thing is special. How are you special compared to everything else out there? And therefore, why should people pay attention to you, right? And then financials, team, summary, and ask. Yes?
It's okay to use an Athens tree in order to the investor to try to make them like more engagement. If I work in a pharmacy industry and I know that the investor have like any disease or something related, try to go through that way, or it's not good.
I'm sorry. Can you rephrase the question? I don't exactly.
Yeah, it's okay to try to.
He's asking if it's okay to try and like target the business pitch towards your judge.
Target the business.
So like understand the background that he has and then accommodate it towards your needs.
Okay. You anticipated a future slide, but let's just talk about that. So you're sitting here, you're listening to stuff. If I give you a pitch about how to give a pitch for a D-stage mezzanine round to go public, is that appropriate? No, right? Because you're in the beginning, you're talking about angel. You need to always know who's sitting there in the audience and what do they need to know. If you have the judges, and Andrew, do they have a list of judges and bios?
Yes.
It's in the book. Read the book. So the worst thing you can do is get into a situation where you haven't read the bios of the speakers or the judges. And then you're sitting there, you're trying to impress them, and you have no idea, for example, that you're pitching an IoT device to someone, and that person actually is an expert in that area, and then you're going to fall short, right? So you want to always do some research on the judges that you're going to be seeing so that you know what they know and you can tailor your pitch to them. So the answer is yes, please tailor the pitch. Yes, Anya. Yes. Yes. So the format is the runoff format-wise is 3 rooms. 3 rooms, right, Andrew? Yeah. And there will be 3 judges per room. Myself, Bill, and Erdie, we're going to be 1 person per room. We're not going to judge because that would just not be fair because we've been around and we've heard some pitches, some not. So we're not judging. The judges are judging. And they would, you would be in a room, usually a tiered classroom of some sort or an auditorium, and then the judges are sitting 1, 2, 3. and then one of us, and then we're going to be running around doing timekeeping and whatever, right? So yes, they will all be sitting there, and then so the runoff is 3 rooms, 4, 5 teams per room, go straight through, and then each room the judges are going to pick the folks who are going to advance to the final round. And how many teams per room? 2. So 6 teams out of 14 will proceed to the final round. So in the beginning, it's 3 rooms, and Andrew will tell you exactly physically where you need to go to give your first pitch, because it's in 3 different buildings, just because of where the locations of the rooms are. So you're going to be in building A for your first pitch, and then we're all going to gather back together. Yeah. Seven a.m. So, yeah, at the latest. So we can come back to that. I just want to go through how to give the pitch, and then we can talk about logistics a little bit. So this is the content that needs to be in the pitch, but please don't make a deck that's exactly like that. And I just want to share this. So this is a process I use myself when I put together a keynote talk, right? So this was an actual keynote talk I gave to an audience in June, and I storyboard it. So the thing is, like, what the content is, but you need to weave it together into some sort of a narrative that makes sense top to bottom, and what is that flow? So I want you guys to think a little bit about, if you have 10 minutes or less, like 5 to 10 minutes, you need to make your point, hit all those things. But the way to be effective to engage the audience is not to just read them off, just read the slides. That's not great. But if you think about what is the story arc, what are the points you want them to take away, and between that and having done a little research on the judges and knowing what they know versus what they don't know, then then you can kind of come up with a really good pitch. So this is you're going to do a 10-minute pitch. I just want to put in something here to say 1-minute pitch is very little commitment. A 3-minute pitch is more like an escalator pitch. So each short pitch earns you the next longer pitch, right? So nobody has a first conversation in 60 seconds and extract $15 million. That only happens if somebody like Rod Brooks, who started Rethink Robotics, where I used to be VP of engineering, that guy, he had co-founded iRobot, and before that, he was like Panasonic professor of something for C-Cell, right? If you're Rod Brooks, you can go out there and you say, oh, I think I'm going to maybe start a company, and our type is going to be like, here's $200 million, please, right? First timers, most people don't have that experience. So you're usually pitching to say, well, can I have more time to talk to you about that? So in the 10-minute pitch, you can ask for money, but you can ask for money in the following way. Perhaps you could say we're raising a seed round of $500,000, and the ask is can we schedule 45 minutes? Something like that in real life, right? Nobody will give you $15 million on first meeting you. So some tips: check out the venue and just figure out what the space feels like so that you get comfortable with it. We have 3 drastically different looking rooms. It's, it is just what it is. And one of the rooms would be the final demo day room. So you should all figure out the Wong Auditorium, right? That's where we're going to finish. Wong Auditorium, E51. So talk to Andrew, figure out physically where these rooms are today, so that when tomorrow, in a state of altered consciousness with sleep deprivation, you still can find your room. And it's very important to just go there and look at the space and own the space and just get a feeling of it. Like, for example, Wong Auditorium, what I'm doing now, you can't do because it's tiered, right? So you can walk up and down the aisles up to a point, but you need to know how many people are in there. You just need to get a sense of how you can use the space physically, right? And that's just a small field trip would do it. You guys anticipated this point, which is you need to know your audience. You know the cohort already. What you need to do is do homework on the judges, please. Okay, so starting with an emotional connection is always a good idea because, you know, the judges, these people, especially, for example, Millie, right? I know her from a while ago. She's a seed level A-round investor. She hears like a million pitches a day. So how do you get her to listen to you? You're going to have to find something that interests her. You have 60 seconds. You have 60 seconds to grab their attention. So don't waste that first 60 seconds talking about it's an honor to be here, blah, blah, blah. No, right? Just jump right into something that's going to grab their attention. And in this particular case, it's a product to monitor a baby for a pregnant woman. And then, you know, you can see like a picture can do a lot. Pictures, a lot of pictures, use fewer words. And when you use the words, make them count. So I am going to show this wonderful slide of Bill Gates and Silverlight. So I think there's probably 500 words in this slide, at least, right? And probably 25 icons of one kind or another. Is that a great slide? Why not?
Can't read it.
Huh? What does it say? Well, if Silverlight was slightly smaller, you don't even know what product he's talking about. Now, it's also, of course, a very old slide because Silverlight is about to be end of life, right? Don't be Bill Gates. I mean, he's a wonderful, wonderful person, but slide making apparently isn't really his area of expertise. And what about that? Steve Jobs and 3 icons. And of course, this is also a very old slide. It says iPod, phone, and internet. That's probably the first time the iPhone was announced. And just you know, take a moment and look at how clean this whole thing is, right? The slide has almost nothing except 3 pictures and 3 words, and it helps him make the point, right? That's, you know, what you want is like get to that level of simplicity so that the slide enhances your story and it doesn't draw attention away from you. The reason why not to put tons of words in the slides is it stresses out your audience, right? They feel like, okay, all right, now I have 500 words to read. I must read them. And let's go back to the Silverlight. Okay, common language runtime, base classes. What is a base class anyway? Oh, well, it must be a presentation core. Oh, so this must be for a developer audience. Oh, Visual Studio. What versions Visual Studio? Is that 5 or 6? Expression Studio. You know, don't do that to your audience. You know, that's just kind of cruel and unusual. Don't do that, right? Simple, clean. Focus on the audience. What do they need? Now, this is a very important point. When you get up there and do any kind of public speaking, right, it's natural to get really, really wound up, and you're thinking, am I doing a good job? You know, am I, how's my articulation? You know, how am I doing? How do I look? Am I wearing the right things? Well, if you think about that, you're just not going to have a good time, and it's going to show. Instead, I find that there's one trick that's super, super, super useful, which is you think about what the audience needs, right? You stop thinking about yourself. You start thinking about what does the audience need, and what do they need so that they understand what I'm trying to say. And again, it comes back to do homework on your judges and understand enough of their personas, right? And you think about what the audience needs, and it takes that anxiety off enough that you can actually focus on the content and what can you do to get the audience to understand what you need them to understand. Emotional connection, always good. Powerful images, less is more. Now practice. We talked a little bit about that the other day. So for a 10-minute pitch you're going to give tomorrow that you haven't put together yet, I would suggest that you storyboard it, and then whoever's going to give that pitch, run it through a couple of times just to make sure that you get the flow, because the first couple of times you might change your storyline. When you try to give it to someone, it may not actually hang together the way it hangs together on paper, so you might change your flow or storyline. And then once you get that enough together and you run out of time, just practice the beginning, because the beginning is the hardest. Once you can get past the beginning, your own enthusiasm will carry you forward. So that the next question is, how many people should present? like your team, 5 people, your team more than 5 people. Should everyone present? No, why not? Well, everybody's here, equal opportunities, yes? Yes, Alex?
Because transitions take time away and also they're like awkward and hard to follow.
Right, so transitions take time away and it's awkward. That's a great answer. So you have like 5 to 10 minutes. If you do a lot of this changeover, then you're confusing the audience, and also it's really, really, really hard to keep the style consistent. So when you need to, so generally we feel like one person at a time, maybe 2 people, and the way to stage manage that is, Andrew might be the CEO. He's over here talking about that. And then when he gets to supply chain management, he might introduce Elaine, the VP of manufacturing. And then he steps back, right? And then Elaine, head of manufacturing, comes up and starts talking about supply chain and procurement and all that really wonderful, boring stuff. And then done, and then Andrew's gonna manage me back down, right? He's gonna say, thank you, Elaine. And then, I exit, and he comes back up, and then, you can walk around and use the gesture of walking around to control the flow, right? So I always am a big fan of whoever's running it, someone is running it and emceeing it, and generally, Andrew, the CEO, would be the one managing the entry and exit, and then the Q&A is when you can have the whole team there, and that's when you show whether or not your team is a cohesive team, right? So we had various, well, we've seen everything, right? And there was one time in the January program where there was a giant team and they all come up, and then 2 people presented. It was a great, great talk. And then it gets to the Q&A. And then Q&A, and then the people giving the talk every question. And then there was a person over here saying, just twitching, right? Trying to get attention so they can answer something. But the CEO never asked them. And guess what? They got docked for a team, right? So there's a role for everyone on the team. And some people are experts in some things versus others. And the Q&A is an opportunity for the people who are not presenting to actually show that they're part of the process, right? Now the other thing, yes. Usually not. You don't have time. So what you can do is, like, let's say you ask a very shocking question, and what you do is you stall, right? You buy yourself 15 seconds and say, oh, that's a really good question. And then quickly concoct some answer, right? But you can't huddle. There's no time to huddle, right? Okay, so am I missing anything just on that? Okay, so Andrew will laugh at me and Billy because they think that sleep is, and Marius especially, sleep is for the weak. I believe in sleep. So if you are presenting and you haven't slept, and this has happened multiple times in the January program and the various boot camps, you lose the power of gap. I mean, you lose language, and yes, you lose language. So I actually last 2 boot camps ago, Jin had the boot camper came to me. We had to sit down. It was scheduled like office hours, and she sits down and she said, I can't talk. And I'm like, I can't talk because I don't have speech because I haven't been sleeping and I have this time and I can't use it. So don't let that happen to you. So if nothing else, do what Iman did. Iman, do you want to share what your team did that first year? Yeah. Sorry. Exactly, yeah, what the team did was get called when they have a mouthful of food.
My team, I was the one pitching, and my team realized that I needed some rest. So around 3 in the morning or 2 in the morning, they actually forced me to go back to where I was staying to sleep. And then I met them again in the morning.
Right.
Yes, it did. There was a problem with that.
Yeah.
I needed enough time in the morning to kind of catch up on the pitch, but we didn't have the kind of rehearsals that you guys have had. So I think you guys would be better off at 2 a.m. than we were. But it affected my whole day the next day that I was able to sleep.
Yeah. So if you go without sleep and then you try to do a pitch, it usually will be quite evident that you're not at the top of your language skills. Yes, Laura. Right. Okay, I would like to invite the mentors to give some examples of questions they will get from judges. What kinds of example questions? Maybe Renee?
So I think I anticipate that they're going to ask a lot of technical questions to the
Yeah. Did everybody get that?
No.
So whatever questions you're going to get, it's probably not about wrapping your product in carbon fiber nanotubes. It's probably not that. Instead,
Instead, it's going to be about the size of the market and market validation.
right. So size of the market validation. Is it plausible? Does it look like you got out of the building and validated your assumptions? Right? Yes, Marius.
The last slide probably was also shortly about the core and how you keep it when you're going to have more competition.
Core. So Mario said they're going to ask you about what is your core, what makes you special, what makes you defensible business, and also how are you different from the competition, right? There are a lot of you guys in spaces that are extremely crowded. For example, Team Natural, you're going to have to say how are you different from Foodler in terms of food delivery. Alex.
For me, the most important thing is the pain of the customer. So convince them that there's actually a pain that you're solving and not the pain that you think that exists.
Right.
So that's why you need to do very well convincing your PMR, your personas,
Right.
that there's actually a pain.
So Alex says, make sure that the pain is credible and is backed up by empirical primary market research data so that it doesn't look like you just made it up. Matteo.
The judges mainly they can be investors. So do the financial make up? Convince me this is the money that I'm going to be able to invest in. Can you prove it? Does everything make sense? Understand the persona, the pain points, the addressable market, the TAM, everything. Is it ready? And is everything reflected on the financials? Am I making money? Is the ask correct? Am I asking enough money?
Or am I asking too much money on too little proof? Or am I asking the wrong thing? Or am I asking the wrong person? Now, of course, these investors have a lot of experience judging business plan competitions. So they understand that it is a one-week program. So I will personally prep them. And many of them have been judges with us before. So they will not be unreasonable in the level of rigor because it is indeed a one-week program. That said, within that pitch, it has to be it has to be consistent, right? You have to be able to make a case that this is plausible from one end to the other. Marius.
One thing that might not be very obvious, financial projections. Judges will focus more on unit economics and business models. So figuring out like if COPA makes sense, if LTV makes sense. When you create LTV, take into consideration churn, not your gut feeling with what the lifetime is. And about the hockey stick and projections of 5 years are less important than business model, COPA, and LTV.
So say that again.
Unit economics and business model are more important than the projections because the projections are illusion
Right.
most of the time.
Okay, so so 2 points. Number one is your unit economics and pricing strategy has to be credible and tied to go-to-market strategy. For example, if you're going to have a self-service, SaaS kind of business, then it's a low value, high volume business. You need to have the numbers, and then you need to kind of prove. Again, taking Team Natural for an example, you're going to consumers. You have to have a credible story about reach, about how you're going to acquire those customers through, in your case, probably, typical inbound marketing, content marketing, and PR for awareness, and also AdWords, e-targeting, retargeting, the modern e-marketing techniques, right? And for another business, like where I come from, industrial automation, you're going to either be going through a value-added reseller network, or you're going to be doing field sales. So it has to be thought through. How you go to market has to be credibly thought through. Now, the 5-year projection, of course, is a hallucination, right? But I'll just give you a couple of numbers. For an investable growth style business, Bill likes to say the year 5 revenue needs to be in the $50 to $100 million range for it to become a traditionally VC investable business, right? So now of course, and we're talking about both sides of our mouth because we say beachhead market, pick something really small. So that's where your product plan comes in, your product roadmap, because you want to land and expand, right? You pick something narrow and you win it all the way and you understand everything about that and it's a lead user that you pick. And then you open it up over the next few years and then you get to a path to greatness. Bassett?
A couple of thoughts. Because we service work last year. So one, the purpose of the pitch in a way is just to get them interested, like Elaine was saying, it's progressive engagement. So give them time to ask questions. That was like a big mistake we made last year. Like we focused so much on our pitch and our slides, and then you go longer, and then they asked like one question because they had others, and they didn't get a chance to ask them. And this is like a really rare opportunity to have to interact with people and see their logic. And that's a lot of the learning that you can get from the pitch. And I said that the other thing that Bill ever mentioned at the end is that think about presenting it in a way where it's an opportunity for them. Right? Not just like, we need this, but what's in it for you?
Yeah.
And why is this a great opportunity for you? So those are two big things that I learned from last year.
So that's a great point. Whoever you're talking to, always ask what's in it for them and why should they listen to you. Olga.
So this 10 minutes, is it 10 minutes for pitch or is it 10 minutes for pitch and Q&A?
10 minutes pitch, 5 minutes Q&A. We recommend that you shorten your pitch to have more time for Q&A because that's where you can catch up. Like if you forgot one thing, but it actually is in the appendix. Oh, and the other thing is, if you have more detail, put that in the appendix and think very carefully, does it belong in the main story? Or is it like, let's say you're doing some consumer electronics thing and then you've got the whole COGS figured out. And you're doing value-based pricing, but you have figured out how much it costs you to make widget X. And somebody says, because they're like they used to work for both, and they want to know, well, tell me about the cost of goods. How are you calculating this? Can you make this cheaply? And then you say, oh, let me introduce our supply chain expert, person X. And person X comes up and goes to appendix slide 7. And here's the whole workup of the bill of materials, and you drown them in detail then. Right? You don't drown them in detail in the main pitch, but having excessive detail, too much sharing in the back, that's not a bad thing. Iman.
Just to add on to what Bassett said, when I was pitching during my presentation, now as a personality, when I'm excited about something, I can get carried away without realizing. And I had sleep, so I had a lot more energy than the rest of my team or the people. So when the VCs were asking me questions, inadvertently with one VC, I interrupted them without even realizing because I was so passionate about what I was presenting that I wanted to show them that yes, we've done the research, we've done the work, we can back it up. And after that, my pitch, like Erdine, just put me aside and told me really nicely, like, hey, just remember in the future, like, be very careful. And it's been 2 years since the first bootcamp, and that one comment has led me to be so much more self-aware in business meetings where I just manage my excitement about I'm selling this product, I care so much about it, and let them listen, let them talk, and be very conscious. And interruption in certain, like in my culture, interrupting someone is not considered rude, but in American culture, interrupting someone is like really rude. So just like being more self-aware, let them finish their question, and then you can explain what you have to say.
Yeah, Marius had a thought a long time ago. Do you still have the thought?
What?
You had something to share, and then
Yes, this is not mandatory, but if you can prove the dogs will eat the dog food, done anything in that direction, that would be actually impressive. And there's been, I think, even Korea team, the mini team went to say patching them, which we're doing like tracking patch for dementia patients. They went actually to centers and they got like a sort of like a level of intention, not a formal one, that's very interested in testing that devices. Something that
yeah. So Marius's point is that if you have any evidence of any kind of proof of intention to purchase via research, via conversations, via any kind of a proxy, like, they've bought something just like this to solve that problem and it validates they have that problem, by all means, see if you can weave that into the storyline. Luciano.
Yes, if you choose to have not one CEO talking or have a MC like it's better to keep the hierarchy and organize it. I try to do that way, and then to be democratic and everybody talk. And the end of the pitch when you was saying, giving the feedback, Luciano, you're doing like a Brazilian dance or something because I don't know where I have to be. And it was a mistake that I committed because I was supposed to do the presentation, trying to be more democratic and give a slide for everyone, but I didn't organize it. This
Right.
is other point. You decide to have to be very organized and set your team to program what will you do. Set the kind of slides and the number of the slides, a time set to do that.
Yeah.
Be very disciplined with that because you will have like 2 hours for each slide, 1 hour for each slide. You start to see how is your schedule. Remember that presentation about ideal. You have the calls and you have to be organized at some point and set these milestones. Then be smart about advocating with the feedback. Be prepared to keep calm and don't advocate all the time. Sometimes they are doing you it's not a hard question. They are just putting you in the right track. If you listen and go to the like a instant feedback, maybe you have the right answer that they are looking for. This is a smart guy. He can change his opinion and he can do the job to go through that.
So great point. So I'll reiterate the 2 points Luciano made. Number one, plan it. It's theater, right? So when you get out there on stage, it's theater. Have some fun with it. Just plan it out and choreograph who's coming and who's going. And Bill likes to say, the most important thing is like the coming and the going because people remember your entrance and your exit. So just choreograph it a little bit. And then the second thing is in the Q&A, listen. Don't get defensive and don't start jumping all over. That's the number one way of turning people out. Like, you start justifying why it is that their question is invalid and that they're stupid, right? Don't do that. I mean, you want them to feel good, right? You want to feel good, so you can help them feel good by not, just listening respectfully. The Q&A is not for, it's not for kind of rationalizing away the question, but an interaction, right? Okay, any other questions? Any other questions? Sarah?
Will we know which judges we get in advance or not?
Yes.
So-
we assigning them later.
So,
Like to research specifically on those?
well, you eventually, if you get to the final round, you'll get all 9. So you might as well look at all 9. But just saying, plan for success. More questions? Any other questions? Okay.